Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name's Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. Now it looks like Liverpool making moves this transfer window and I'm loving it. Signing some top players like McAllister and Szoboszlai will only improve our chances to compete for major honours next season. But we're not finished and there's still some additions that need to be made. Safe to say it will at least be one more midfielder and maybe another defender in the squad. But are we required to sell players in order to make additions? And also, do we need to sell these players in order to meet the Premier League requirements with regards to registering homegrown players, as we've lost two in Oxlade-Chamberlain and Milner? So let's dive in and evaluate the squad in more detail. But before we do, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to support the channel. And if you're watching live, feel free to drop a comment in the live chat. Now, let's look into the squad. So before we do, let's get familiarized with what the Premier League squad registration entails and the criteria for homegrown players. So as you can see on the screen right now, each Premier League club submit a squad list after each transfer window closes. It can contain no more than 17 players who do not fulfill homegrown player criteria. The remainder of squad up to a total of 25 players. So that's a key number, 25 players must be homegrown. Change to the squad list may be made during the periods of a transfer window. And what is a homegrown player? A homegrown player means a player who, irrespective of nationality or age, has been registered with any club affiliated to the FA or the Football Association of Wales for a period of 3 seasons or 36 months before their 31st birthday. So, or the end of the season during where they turn 21. So that's key. So players like Robertson, unfortunately, do not fall in this criteria. So he's not a homegrown player. So this is the current Liverpool squad as it stands. Currently, we have 16 non-homegrown players and 6 homegrown players. If we were to submit this squad, for example, it would be perfectly fine. We fit the Premier League requirements. But remember, players that are under 21, so the likes of Elliott, Basesic, Ben Doak, you've got Conor Bradley and Morton, who have just come back from loan, they're not required to be registered. Personally, I think a few young players will depart this summer. So I believe Conor Bradley and Morton will be sent out on loan. For me, ideally, if we could get loan moves for both of these players in the Premier League, that would be fantastic for their development. And I think this summer might be the summer where we see Nathaniel Phillips depart. Now, if he stays, I don't have any huge concerns as one, he's homegrown, so he helps us with the quota there. And he's a decent player to have as a backup. But at 26 years old, I think it's time for him to move on and play some first team football. He's recently been linked with a move abroad to Feyenoord in Holland and also Leeds United in the Championship. If I was him, I'd go for Feyenoord as it's an opportunity for him to play in a new league, live in a new country. I know they missed out on European qualification, but nevertheless, it's still an interesting move for him. Or if he would prefer to stay in England, he can stay up north, play for another club that has great history and a passionate fan base. They've just appointed Daniel Farke as their new manager. So Phillips would certainly help with their quest for Premier League promotion next season. So if Phillips was sold, which is very, very likely, that would mean we only have 5 homegrown players and 16 non-homegrown players. So that's 21 players registered, which is within the Premier League requirements. But as I mentioned earlier, we still need to bolster the squad. I mentioned we need another defensive midfielder and also a defender. And we've been linked with a lot of players that are actually plying their trade across Europe. So if we were to sign 2 non-homegrown players, for example, would we be able to meet the Premier League requirement? Not quite. This would result to having 18 non-homegrown players. Remember, we can only register a maximum of 17 players. So a solution would be to sell one of our current non-homegrown players. A lot of fans are saying maybe Thiago or Fabinho. as they've been heavily linked with moves to Saudi Arabia. But for me, that's not even a thought I'd like to give right now, especially for Thiago. I know there's mixed opinions about him, but for me, we finally have a number of midfielders that will help this team. And this time around, we can actually manage Thiago's minutes and use him as a luxury player. So this is the perfect season for him to make an impact in the team. Excuse me. With regards to Fabinho, I wouldn't be too mad if we sold him. If it means we sign someone like Thuram or a Florentino Luis who plays for Benfica, or even a Caicedo, look, wishful thinking, I know, but it's definitely a worth a thought. But honestly, I don't see either player leaving this summer. If there was one player that could be sold in order to sign 2 non-homegrown players from that list, I think it could be Tsimikas, as I don't think we'll be deploying 4-3-3 next season as our main formation. And he didn't really impress playing as a left-sided centre-back in the back three. So I think his game time will be restricted, and a move away from the club might suit both parties. So the big question on Twitter in the last few days was, can we sign both Thuram and Lavia and still sign a defender as well? On paper, yes, we can, but it would be on the basis that the defender is homegrown. The profile of the defenders that we are currently looking at would be a left-footed player who can play as a left-sided centre-back in a back three, in a back four, or even as a left-back on occasions. For me, the dream signing would be Chelsea's Levi Colwill, who had a fantastic game for England in the under-21s, and they've just reached the final. But are Chelsea willing to do business? At this stage, it seems very unlikely, and understandably. So if I was to think of any other targets within the Premier League, we could look at someone like Crystal Palace's Gay or Wolves' Max Kilman, who's also been linked to a move to Napoli. Personally, I don't think the Thuram deal is completely off the table. I think this is based on which centre-back we sign. If we manage to sign Levi Colwill, for example, that gives us an extra space to register a non-homegrown player. So just keep that in the back of your mind. I wouldn't completely rule out Thuram joining Liverpool this summer. But having said that, let's say we sign Lavia from Southampton. Do we need another midfielder? I guess it's never too harm to have a lot of players in your squad, especially as I want Liverpool to have a complete squad this season. But we might be overloaded in that department. So let's say we're only signing one more midfielder. I would happily go for Lavia. Ability-wise, I think he's fantastic for his age, and he has a very high ceiling. And also, in a couple of years' time, he can be registered as a homegrown player, as he was with the Man City Academy. So that could prove to be a very smart signing from the club. Add Levi Colwill to the mix, who's also under 21. We could have 2 extra homegrown players in the future. As of now, this squad will still meet the Premier League requirements, as we have possibly the opportunity of signing a non-homegrown player added to the squad, someone like a Thuram, for example. That's the dream scenario for me, but the reality is that if we aren't able to sign Colwill, we may have to look elsewhere, especially outside of England. That one player is Inacio, who you can see in this diagram here. With our recent signings being bought, and they've all been active, we've activated release clauses to sign those 2 players in McAllister and Szoboszlai. Let's make it 3 in a row. 3rd time's the charm, right? So signing Inacio would possibly max out our quota of non-homegrown players. So unless players have departed from the list that you can see on the screen right now, this would be the complete squad to go into next season. I personally don't want to see any players being sold now, as this is probably one of the best squads we've had for a very long time. So let's say Liverpool make 2 signings, and they are Inacio and Lavia, as you can see on the screen, highlighted in red. How would our squad look going forward? What I'll do is I'll present 2 teams, One will be the traditional 4-3-3 formation. I can safely say we won't be playing next season. And I also present the formation that I believe will be the new shape of Klopp's 2.0, and that is the 3-2-2-3. So let's speak about this team here. So you've got Alisson in goal, you've got back four, Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate, and Alexander-Arnold. Midfield three, I would still go with Fabinho to start off with the season based on his experience. And then you've got McAllister and Szoboszlai being the two number 8s. Then you've got Diaz, Gakpo, and Salah. So I would say that's the strongest lineup when you play a 4-3-3. Arguable to say that maybe Trent should be in midfield, but I don't think he is someone that I would rely on as a sole number 6. He would be better playing on the right-hand side in his traditional right-back position. Now, the backup team would be Kelleher, as you can see, and Adrian being the third choice. Then you've got Tsimikas, you've got Inacio, who would be the new signing. You've got Matip as his partner. Then you've got Joe Gomez playing right back. And the midfield three would be Lavia. I'll have Thiago and Jones starting. You've got Bajcetic and Henderson as backup for those three midfielders. And then you've got Diogo Jota, Nunes, Harvey Elliott. And you've got young Ben Doak in the sidelines as well. So in terms of numbers, it makes sense. I don't think we've overloaded the squad in terms of numbers. We've got practically 8 midfielders available to select from, which is the normal number we've had in the past. You've got Elliott, who can also play as a midfielder if required, and he can also cover for right wing, which is great to have in terms of versatility in the squad. But this is the actual formation that I feel like Liverpool will play next season. So Alisson in goal, obviously, and it would be Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate. Robertson would be the left side centre back to start the season, but I think as time progresses, you will probably see the new signing. So in this scenario, it would be Inacio starting games more often, but I think for argument's sake, we'll just put Robertson in there for his experience. I know in the last formation, I put Fabinho as a starter, but I feel like in a double pivot, Lavia and Alexander-Arnold would be a mouth-watering prospect to see on the pitch. So I'll go for these two to start in the lineup. And then you've got McAllister and Szoboszlai as the 2 advanced number 8s. And then you've got Diaz, Gakpo, and Mo Salah as the front 3. And then you've got Kelleher and Adrian as the backup goalkeepers. Inacio on the left-hand side, Matip in the middle, and Joe Gomez on the right side of the back 3. And you've got Tsimikas as backup if he hasn't been sold. And then in terms of midfield, I would go for Fabinho and Henderson as the 2 number 6 in the double pivot. And I'd allow Thiago and Jones to play further up as advanced 8s. And then you've got Diaz, Nunes, and Elliott, and then Ben Doak as backup as well. So despite what formation you go for, it looks like we have a lot of quality, especially Team B. Normally our Team B or our second string in the past, the quality is dipped. But in this, you can see we've got experience, we've got youth as well. We've got players that are ready to make that jump whenever required. Every player, for me, will play a part in this coming season. So I'm excited about this team. I feel like there's a lot of players that are ready to be unleashed. I'm excited to see how the new signings go as well. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Formation-wise, would you go for a 4-3-3 or would you go for a 3-2-2-3? And are you satisfied with the selection of players that are presented? Or do you feel like we still need maybe like another player like a Thuram or a Kone? Or maybe Inacio is not the left-sided centre-back that you want. Is there another player that you like? So love to hear from you guys. So drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I hope I've brought some clarity to the squad situation. I think the next signing will help map out what other business we can do this summer. I'll be over the moon if it's another defender and midfielder. So fingers crossed we hear some concrete news in the coming weeks. Don't delve too much into the homegrown stuff. I think there are ways around it, even though I haven't even presented other solutions like keeping players like a Vandenberg who hasn't played for Liverpool, but he would qualify as homegrown. So there's always ways around it. If it means 1 or 2 players have to depart, so be it. But I don't think that'll be required this summer. And that concludes the show for tonight. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will be doing another Transfer Talk episode tomorrow evening. So please make sure to tune in. It's episode number 4. Follow me on social media at OzzieFTP on Twitter or Ozzie.ftp on Instagram to keep up to date with any announcements. I'll confirm the time of the Transfer Talk episode as well. So until next time, guys, take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you all very soon. Goodbye.